Hey guys, welcome to an episode of the Best of the Rest podcast. I'm Sticks.
And I'm Fraser.
Seamless.
Why do you do that?
So we're going to try something a little bit different today. We're going to do a driver profile, give you a little bit more information on a driver on the grid.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I guess that's a good place to start. And we thought we'd start with drum roll.
That's a terrible drum roll.
No bass in that.
Yuki Tsunoda.
Who's he's been in the news a little bit so far this season.
He has.
For good reasons, you'd hope for him. But I guess we'll start off from the very beginning.
Yeah, so the young Japanese driver. Where did it all start, Sticks?
Well, technically back in 2000, 11th of May, when he popped out. It's probably... Oh my God. It's probably where technically it all started, or we won't get into any more detail.
Where it actually started.
So
when two people love each other very much.
The birds and the bees.
Yeah.
So technically 25 as of the recording of this. And I mean, I hope we release this before he turns 26.
Should do.
And okay, so yeah, we've established he's 25.
This is going well.
So he started, got his first experience in karting at 4 years old.
Very young, isn't it? I know it's pretty common. Like, you hear a lot of elite sportsmen and women and stuff saying, "Oh yeah, I was 4 years old when I started this." But like, when you think about it, like,
It's wild.
especially for like karting, like jumping in the cart and just fanging it around the track at 4.
Karting, like you can see other sports, like, oh yeah, he started in tennis when he was 4 years old.
Yeah, just picking up a
Swinging
racket and having a little swing, or kicking a soccer ball or footy or whatever. But
you put them in a cart and you're like, well, I hope they know to stop and turn and they don't just
yeah,
poleaxe them. Like but it seems to be the done thing. If you're going to make it in Formula One, then yeah, you need to be starting early.
I wonder if there's like a minimum age that they're allowed on the track.
Yeah, well, I guess Jos Verstappen would be the one to ask there, because I'm sure he had Max out there as soon as possible.
Max at 2.
Max at birth. Straight into a go-kart. Go, son.
Just taped him in there.
Dangles the bottle in front. Like, if you want this, you will press the accelerator. So, yeah, 4 years old is when he got his first taste. And apparently his first experience of Formula One was in 2007. Went to the Japanese Grand Prix. And
So he must have been 7.
that's when...
Quick math.
nailed it. It's where the passion ignited. This is where it all really started to take off.
Wow.
7 years old.
So assuming it would have been the Japanese Grand Prix that he went to, considering he's born in Japan.
And I mean, who was racing in 07?
Um,
Had Hamilton started then? Alonso, I guess.
Yeah, Alonso was.
Alonso's probably mid-career at that point.
Was Schumacher, was that his in-between period?
I don't actually know.
Because I think he was like late 90s to early thousands. But then he had a few years off and then came back again for a couple.
But I mean, as a 7-year-old, you'd be absolutely hyped experiencing the V10 era where the cars are just screaming. And I mean, as a kid, you're either going to buy into that or you're going to go, damn, that was hectic, full on, bit too much for me.
Yeah.
But clearly we know which way this went.
Yeah.
So what happened after that, Freezer?
Yeah, well, he obviously continuing karting. We tried to pull up some results, but apparently there's not really much for those kind of eras, or at least that we could find with our unprofessional research team.
Yeah, you have to get onto him.
And his actual competition in karting started at age 10, so while he did first kind of jump into a kart at 4, obviously mustn't have been able to compete at 10 or wasn't ready to compete till 10. Going on from that, we skip a few years and he jumps into single-seaters. It was in 2016. So that's for the F4 Japanese Championship, and that's when Honda started sponsoring him as well.
Which is a massive pickup at 16 years old to get Honda. Probably,
imagine that.
Well, one of the biggest sponsors you could pick up in Japan.
Yeah, because that's like essentially still backing his career now.
Yeah, it's pretty much pushed him all the way to Formula One.
Yeah.
And why he's probably in that Red Bull seat.
Yeah, there were a few rumours floated that that's pretty well how he got to the Red Bull seat. Like, not saying he's not talented and doesn't deserve it, but apparently Honda pretty well forced him in there.
It's all part of the game, isn't it? Money speaks, and, you know,
oh yeah,
two equal talented drivers, but who's got the funding to push it further? So in 2018, he won the Japanese Formula 4 Championship and made the move to Europe after that, taking things seriously. And that seems to be the dumb path is if you want to make it the big times, you move to Europe and get your racing in front of the eyes that matter to try and push you up.
Yeah, it sounds like that's how all the young ones kind of go about it, by kind of like 14, 16, heading over to Europe, especially from countries that aren't UK or Europe already. They seem to head over there, so it must be a strong racing culture.
I guess it's like, I mean, you could be to put it in an Australian example, is you could be a gun sports person. If you want to play AFL, well, there's no point trying to play AFL leagues that are tiny in other countries where you're not really going to get noticed. You sort of got to get there where the recruiters are, so to speak.
Yeah.
Get noticed, get into a development squad, so on and so forth, which seems to be the way to do it. You don't sort of get picked up as a mature-aged racing car driver and then make the big time of Formula One.
No.
So, yeah, in 2019, he competed in Formula 3 and the Euro Formula Open Championship. So I think he competed, both in the same year. Come P9 in F3, which I'm not sure whether he completed all the races.
Yeah, okay.
Or whether he joined a little bit later and then or may have missed some by doing both championships.
Yeah, so he's roughly 19 at that stage.
Yeah, 18, turning 19 that year.
Yeah.
And then 2020 got promoted to Formula 2 and finished third in the championship, which is a pretty strong result.
Yeah, not bad. I'd take that.
I'm not sure who else was in Formula 2 that year. I mean, we could get onto the people that researched for the pod to do a bit more of an in-depth dive in future driver profiles.
Yeah, I don't think that was even Piastri. I think he must be younger than Piastri.
Because when was Piastri?
Didn't Piastri win in 21?
Yeah, he must have. 21. Yeah, so he must have won the year that. 20, so 21.
22.
Yuki made his F1 debut in 21.
Yeah.
Well, the name of the team at the time was Scuderia AlphaTauri, which everyone just called AlphaTauri, which is now Cash App Racing Bulls, or what is it? What's the full name?
I think they were V-Carb last year, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. But I think for this year they wanted just to be gone by as Racing Bulls. So
AlphaTauri was better.
Yeah, they don't like keeping their name. They like to try and change it all the time, which is a pain in the ass.
That's
can't just keep it simple.
That's money though, isn't it? Whoever's paying the most gets to chuck their name up there. I wonder how much they pay for a naming sponsorship.
Yeah, you look at HP. They got their Ferrari sponsorship.
They sponsor the red team and slap their blue all over it.
Yeah, pretty much seems that way, doesn't it? But obviously Ferrari getting a decent payout by HP, so they get to slap their logo wherever they like, pretty much.
Well, the Miami livery was something.
Yeah.
Just doesn't really work, but yeah, anyway, it's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
So Yuki, 2021 F1 debut, and he actually scored points on debut, which is a bloody big ask.
Fuck yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of hype around him at the time. So making your debut in Formula One and scoring points, there would have been a lot of chitter chat. He finished P9, and I did notice that he beat Stroll, which was love to see it.
Good result.
And finished that season in P14 overall in the championship, but his best result was P4 in Abu Dhabi. So that's pretty baller for debut season in a solid midfield car.
He got P4 in his debut season.
Yeah, race finish at Abu Dhabi.
Fucking hell.
So, I mean, that's having a dip.
What a season.
So AlphaTauri finished sixth
as a rookie.
Constructors, so that's, sixth fastest car out there, and to get P4, I don't know what went on in that race. I'm sure there's a little bit of this, bit of that going on to finish fourth, but yeah, it's bloody impressive.
Abu Dhabi 21. That was wasn't that Verstappen and Hamilton iconic race finish?
Yeah. That would be interesting to see how Yuki's race panned out.
Yeah, well, I wonder what happened with the cars that...
Because there's that whole controversy, unlapped cars.
They only let a few through and not all of them. And wonder how that did pan out for the rest of the field, because we only see it obviously from the 1-2 perspective.
Well, because that's all the bloody broadcasters worried about was that Max Hamilton. There might as well just been two cars out there at that point. He had a pretty solid run through his time at the second team at Red Bull. But this is where there's sort of been a lot of conjecture over the years, is whether he deserves that seat, because he was very crash happy to start off with.
Yeah.
And the rumours are that his Honda sponsorship was the only thing that's sort of keeping him locked in that seat, and anyone else that didn't have strong tyres probably would have been moved on.
Yeah, a little pocket rocket, real fast but aggressive.
And very aggressive and mouthy over the team radio, which is, teams don't want that to represent them, so that's another thing that they don't. Bit of a red flag.
Very fiery.
But he definitely has come good, and especially the last 12 months, he's been very consistent, sort of put a lid on the aggression side of things, and definitely deserved that second Red Bull seat going into 2025, which didn't happen, because who got that seat?
Lawson.
And how long did Lawson last?
2 races.
I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 races, and by the third he was out.
So yeah,
which I think shit, but yeah, I still thought Tsunoda should have had the seat to start with. So big ups to Tsunoda there, highly regarded driver in my opinion. So
racing in a top team. Announced only a couple months ago, but a lot of pressure on that second Red Bull seat because of the nature of that team and all their focus being around Max. But good on him. He's worked hard, and now it's time to either sink or swim in that top team.
Yeah, well, he's starting to get some steady results. So he's out of the media spotlight. He's not doing anything fantastic, but he's not 20th like it was starting to seem like was the best that second seat could get. So he's getting some consistent Q3s and some consistent low end points. So hopefully young Tsunoda gets a more of a handle on the car and gets it up there a bit closer to Verstappen.
And I think it's probably a lot easier as a racing driver knowing the team's backed you in for the rest of the year. So you've got the rest of the year, you've got 20 odd races to go. So there's probably not as much pressure to perform off the rip. It's sort of just, okay, let's see what I can do with this car. Let's build in the direction where I can get the performance out of it. Where if you're under pressure like Lawson was from day dot, and then you put in a couple dodgy performances, and then all of a sudden it's just the pressure cooker, it's hard to perform at that level while you're getting used to the sport at the top level. So I think he's probably in the best position in that Red Bull seat. If he was in the inverse and got the seat last year and then started rough, then he could be in the same position as what Lawson is now, where they did a quick switch and move him on.
I guess I got a question for you. If you were the hiring manager or whatever of Red Bull, one, would you have put Tsunoda into the seat? And two, if you did, when would you have done it?
Personally, I would have put Yuki in at the end of last season because on paper, like they put Danny Rick up against him and Yuki beat him. De Vries lasted half a season and then was sacked. They put Lawson to compare him against Yuki, and Yuki outqualified him and I think scored a few more points as well. But it just seemed like they really had their eye on Lawson.
Mm.
So I probably would have put him in the seat going into this season. But I don't know. There's so many rumours that get around, and apparently Helmut and Christian didn't want Lawson. Didn't want Yuki, and apparently they didn't really want Lawson either. Is the word on the street? But rumours are rumours.
In my opinion, I would have put Tsunoda in a year prior.
So 2024 season?
Yeah, so end of 23, start of 24 season. I would have given him a run.
He definitely was good enough at that point.
Yeah,
and I think
at that point he'd had his first few years in F1 already. He was starting to show good results. He was getting on top of that fiery nature that was causing a few crashes and whatnot, starting to mature. And at that point, Perez was starting to decline a bit as well. So that, to me, would have been the point. I probably would have gone, all right, let's give Tsunoda. I would have done a straight swap, drop Perez into the
twos, if you will.
Yeah, the RB or whatever they were at that stage. They might have still been AlphaTauri. And then and put Tsunoda into the Red Bull and just see how that went.
I think the only thing that probably stopped that from happening was the Danny Rick experiment that was hanging around, and everyone wanted him in the top team. And can he wind the clock back? What can he do? So there was, if you took Danny Rick out of the picture, if he just turned around and said, "Nah, I'm retiring," then that probably would have gone down like that, I reckon.
Yeah, because I think by the end of the 23 season, Danny Rick had been in and hadn't done a whole lot with it. So to me, his performances wasn't quite steady enough for that Red Bull seat. So I probably would have, because I know they tossed up all that of him going up and whatever, but I probably would have left, swap Tsunoda and Perez, and then it be between, say, Danny Rick and Lawson for who got that second seat for that year.
It's just good to see Red Bull actually pulling the trigger and doing things in the top team. Like Perez was so stagnant for ages, which is just not Red Bull and how they operate. So it's good to see them actually go, okay, we need to make a change here and see whether we can get something decent.
One extreme to the bloody other, though.
Yeah.
They got Perez who, definitely probably is still a really good driver, but he was obviously struggling with certain aspects, either of the car or just his own career, so he needed a bit of a refresh. But it just kind of seemed to hang around and stagnate, and then they get Tsunoda and Lawson swaps and doing things after a couple of races.
Back to the Red Bull of old.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, so that's about all we've got to cover for Tsunoda. Stay tuned for the rest of this season and see how his time at Red Bull goes.
Yeah, but just another congratulations to Tsunoda for being in that Red Bull seat, and really hope he starts to pull some good results, because I rate him very highly as a driver and as a person, absolute character. So
yeah, same here. Personally, one of my favourite drivers on the grid. Has a bit of a laugh.
Yeah,
sort of doesn't take it too seriously, which is good to see. But yeah, stay tuned. See how he goes for the rest of the season. Hopefully, he holds onto that seat. Time to box.
Alrighty, time to retire today's episode. If you've liked us, hit follow, subscribe, share it with another F1 fan, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers.
Bye.
Look at this. This is not a dog. This is a piece of Shit.